Welcome back to Crazy Dave's Crew. I'm Laura. You're watching Thursday Threads. Before we get started on today's project, I neglected to show you guys something at the last video. The last video I was doing a scrappy disappearing 9-patch. And this is what I've got done so far, and I kind of like it. When I showed my husband what colors I was going to use, he just said, "It's going to be colorful." And I said, yeah, exactly. I want it to be colorful. And I did think the purple brings it all together. I like it. But I forgot to show you one of the most important steps. And that is squaring up your blocks before you start sewing the sashing and sewing them together. So we're going to do that today. Then we will get started on today's block. So I decided I wanted these to be 15 inches unfinished. I've got a large OmniGrid square. So of course, 15 inches, you don't want to just go 15, boom. You want to go in the middle. So half of 15 is 7.5. So I'm going to get the 7.5 mark all the way down this seam and all the way across this seam, because I want it to be 7.5 up and down. And there's a wonderful little square right there, little angle that lets you know if you've got it. And I have nothing to cut here. I do have a little bit to cut there. And this is too big for my rotating mat. Again, 7.5 and 7.5, getting my little angle right there, all the way across. Now, what happens if your block is less than 15 inches? Well, so you square it up to 14.5, which would be 7.25 each way. But I think I can get mine pretty good on the 7.5. Some of it is just dead on right. Like this side looks really good. Oop, just a little bit. Again, 7.5. There are lines and dots on your rulers for a reason. Use them. And now I have a very nicely squared up block that I can put my sashing on and do all sorts of things with. And I just have 12 more of these to square up and put sashing on, and then I'll be finished with my top. And if I have any extra left over, they'll go into my orphan box, and I will have one very interesting quilt block when I put all my orphans together. Important step, squaring up. And this is what I have so far. After I squared up all my squares, well, at least half of them anyway, and I've been putting them together. And this is what I have thus far. And it's very colorful, but that's kind of what I wanted. Oh. This is my new mascot. This is my daughter's doll from many, many years ago that she called Biscuit. I think he looks a lot like my bunny Georgie. And I will have to at some point get a picture of him on here so you can see him. He is a character and a half. So the block I'm wanting to do today, it is the Bright Morning Star. I am wanting to do a Bible sampler quilt. So we're going to have probably about 12 blocks is what I'm planning. Could be more. Not all the same colors, but try to have the same background and try to match up some of the colors. There's a lot of the Bible blocks. Of course, there's crosses, there's David and Goliath, you've got Jacob's Ladder, Crown of Thorns. And the Bright Morning Star would not necessarily be a, Bible one, but I really liked the look of it and I thought it did fit. Joy comes in the morning. So that's the one we're going to do. And I'm going to show you, it may not be the right way, the correct way, but I'm going to show you my way. I had a little bit of difficulty trying to find some of my blocks to be 12 inches finished, 12 and a half inches unfinished, and then trying to find the measurements, the specifications for all the blocks. And I did find one, and this probably works for most people, but some of them, they were saying to cut out squares and bisect them and then do a double bisect so you make 4 little triangles, making some flying geese using triangles. That wasn't working for me, so I came up with a different method. And this is what I have for Bright Morning Star. So I need 4 colors. So I've got my background, and then my color 1, my color 2, color 1, fabric 1 here, my background, fabric 2, fabric 3, and fabric 4. So fabric 1, which is my background, I need 4 3 1/8 inch squares. I need 4 rectangles, and I cut out extra because you never know. And I want them to be 3 inches by 5 inches. And then I need 8 3 by 3 squares. Instead of using triangles, we're going to use rectangles and squares to make our flying geese. So 3 by 5 and 3 by 3. And that's fabric 1. Fabric 2, I need 4 of each rectangle. So it should be 1 7/8. But if you get it to 2, it's okay. By 3 1/8. So 1 7/8 by 3 1/8. 1 7/8 by 4 1/2. So 1 7/8 by 4 1/2. Now this is pretty much a 9 patch, and each one of these will be 4 1/2 inches. Now the way I'm doing it, there's going to be a lot of squaring up. Fabric 3. And just like with these are for our flying geese. 3 by 5. You need 4 of them. And then you need 8 3 by 3. And last, for the center, you need a 4 1/2 by 4 1/2 inch square. And we're just going to take this one step at a time, each square at a time, sew them together, square them up, and then we'll put them together. So let's start with our corner pieces. So 3 1/8 squares are 1 7/8 by 3 7/8. And again, if they're not perfect, squaring it up is going to make it all right. So we're going to start with these. And we'll kind of go from there. that to where I can access it. My husband put a TV down here for me so I can watch movies and TV while I sew. He takes very, very good care of me. We're going to move this over here. We are going to turn that on. And I will say I really liked my rotary ruler cutter combo for cutting on my pieces. This made it pretty good. So I really liked that. Let's you sit there. Hang on to that. There you go. I have changed out my needle. So, even the most complicated pattern, if you break it down to the pieces, and sometimes adjust. And this is a nice white on cream, but sometimes it's really hard to see which is the right way. And I'm just going to put this on here. And this is one time you're going to see me not pin. I know, crazy, right? So I'm just going to get all these put on here. Making sure I've got it right side up, right side to right side. So we've got those 4 done. We need to press, and then we're going to sew the other side on. And to keep it straight for me, I'm going to put it here at the bottom and put my other strip on the right side, because that's how I want it to be in each corner. Looking at it, going to be in the top left corner, the strip here, and the strip here. So let's press this and we'll do the other one. So now we're going with our longer ones. And some of my measurements weren't 100% correct, but again, my biggest issue is I wanted to make sure that I was cutting off more than, make sure I had more than I needed. So my squaring up would be perfect. So I'm going to press this, and then we're going to square it, and then we'll be done with these. I do like to use my smaller one, and I like to kind of square up as I go. Well, I am going to want this to be at the bottom, and it needs to be 4.5 inches tall and 4.5 inches wide. And I've got my little 4.5 inch mark right there. And just a little bit of a strip there. and then that's perfect. So I'm going to finish these up and we'll come back to the next square. I now have my 4 corners done. Very easy. And I will tell you, trying to get the 1 7/8, I don't know about y'all, but that's a little difficult for me. So I just did these as 2 inches, and that's why I had some to chop off. But like I said, I would much rather have too much and be able to square it up to be exactly right. So they're all the same. And I'm going to put these aside. And my center I'm going to put aside because that's already done. So now I've got 3x5 and 3x3 pieces of both my background and fabric 1 and fabric 3. What I'm going to do now, I am going to, on the wrong side of the fabric of my 3x3 blocks, I'm going to draw a line corner to corner. And y'all have seen me do this before. I've got a little yellow marker, a little chalk pencil. I'm just gonna, and you probably can't see that real good, but I just went corner to corner. Right side to right side on my other fabric here. Okay? And I'm going to sew on the line from this corner to this corner. Now, I have found if I start here in this corner down here, my machine, gets all fritzy and it likes to chew the fabric. So I start on this corner. And again, you're going to see me not pinning. I know the world is ending. And this is why I like doing leaders and enders, so that I'm not wasting all this, but I'm wanting to show you guys how this works. So I'm going to press this to kind of set the seam, and then I'm going to cut 1/4 of an inch away from my seam. So I'm just going to press that down. And I've got my little ruler here. It's a 1/2 inch wide. Right there in the middle is the line I'm putting on my seam. It's not very wide, so watch yourself in cutting. Okay, so now it's what we've got. So we're going to press that down. And I'm going to open it. Check that out. And I'm just going to do the same thing to the other side. Remember when I said to be careful about which side was which side and how much trouble I have with the white on cream? Yeah, I goofed. I think I have to do some frogging here. It's also a good thing I always make extra. But all I'm going to do is take another one, drawing on the wrong side, with that open, and I'm going to sew it down corner to corner. Be back in a minute and I'll show you what my finished product looks like. So after I did the first square, this is what I ended up with. I then sewed another square on the other side, going this way. I'm going to cut this part off. 1/4 inch away from my seam. I'm just going to kind of roll that out. And I have a flying geese, or flying goose. But it's not perfect. There's too much space here. I need it to be 1/4 inch. Now, there is a reason why your rulers have, you know, your diagonals. I don't have a flying geese ruler. So I'm going to use my ruler here, this line, this perfect diagonal, and I'm going to put it on that seam line of this triangle. And the point, there's a little dot showing the 1/4 inch. Okay? So I've got my diagonal line, and then there is that little point right there that shows 1/4 inch. They put all this stuff on here for a reason, so use them. And I'm just going to trim off here. It's nice and straight. I know it is because my triangle is, everything's matched up. So now I can go over and just match up my ruler line with the fabric line, and I know I will have a straight line. By having this be 1/4 inch, you're going to get that nice point. Now, the block is going to be 4.5 inches. So while I have this with me, and I'm doing these, I need these to be two and a half inches tall. I'm not going to worry about the sides right now. I'm just going to worry about the up and down. So let's just do that. So I know it needs to be 2.5 inches. And I know that's right here is correct. And I know I've got a straight line. And the reason why I know it needs to be 2.5 inches is I'm going to be sewing this to another 2.5 inch. 2.5 plus 2.5 is 5, minus 1/4 inch seam on this piece and 1/4 inch seam on the other piece, making it 4.5. So I'm going to cut that to be 2.5 inches tall. I'm not worrying about my sides right now. So I'm going to finish up my 4 pieces of blue with the cream, and then I'm going to do 4 pieces with the cream and blue. So I took my white rectangles and did my blue squares just like I did with the blue and the white. And I just want to review again, you want to make sure that you have 1/4 inch above that triangle peak. More than that, you're going to have a little bit more space, and I'm okay with that. Less than that, you're going to have a blunt end. So again, let's square these up. Again, I want this to be 2.5 inches tall. So I'm just going to measure all that. 2.5. Now, what I'm going to do I'm going to sew these together. And this time I am going to pin. And this is something I'm going to take away with me, that this is really neat. I like the way this worked. I like the way all this came out. I like to be able to see the top of my goose, so that I know kind of where I'm at when I'm sewing. Let's just put a pin. Husband's home. And now we're going to just sew across. I'm just going to sew this down. Remember, it's not a race. You go as fast or as slow as you need to go to create the results that you want. Now what I'm seeing is my little seam, it'll X right there. It's right on target for my seam, which should mean I get a good point. What do y'all think? So I'm going to do these to the other 3 sets. But let's press this down, and I'm going to press away so that it's not, because if I press it down this way it's going to be really bulky. So I want to press it upward so it's not quite as bulky. Now remember what we said, it needed to be 4.5 by 4.5? Yeah. Now, I'm going to want to make sure that my triangles are in a line. Now here's where I could get tricky. I've got my pieces together, I've sewn this one together, and I think I did pretty good on my points. Okay. Now I want this to be 4.5 inches tall, 4.5 inches wide, and it's not. But it should be right at 4.5 inches tall. Maybe just a smidgen off the top. And we'll handle that in a minute. But we are right at 5 inches across. I want it to be 4.5. So I'm going to take the 2 1/4 mark, which ironically is, I've got my little line right there beautifully. And I'm just going to trim the side. Because if you just try to go, oh, it's 4.5 inches, you're going to end up with something like this. You want your points to be in the center. Actually, that'd be really kind of cool if you could manage to do that all the way across. But that's not what we want for today. We want it centered. So 2 1/4 and 2 1/4 is 4.5. Right. Again, 2 1/4, 2 1/4. I want it right there on those triangles. And that looks more centered. And we are just a smidgen off. But that right there is perfect. I don't want to mess with my point up there. So I guess if I wanted, I could take off just a smidgen here. And now we have a 4.5 by 4.5 inch block. Now we could start putting some together. Let's go ahead and finish up the rest of these, and then we will put our 9 patch together. So once you have all of your pieces together, and they're the way you want them to be, it's not right, this way. You're just going to lay them out. And then treat them like any other 9 patch. And then you have made the bright morning star. And what's neat is this will disappear when you have your seams on there. And it's all going to look good. I'm going to take a short break and then I will come back and finish this. I pressed these outward to eliminate some of the bulk here. Okay, so these are going outward. I pressed this one inward to eliminate some of that bulk. So when you are putting these together, be sure to nest those seams. Remember, and it's just a matter of kind of feeling along until they kind of pop right into place. And this time I am pinning. And then it's just, you sew them together like you would a 9 patch. Nest to those seams. Kind of make sure that you're all nice and even. I know all of the squaring up, it's not the, it's not the most, fun part of the job. But I will tell you, it sure makes this part of it fun, because everything just matches up together. And I would much rather spend the time squaring up and having everything fit together nicely. So I'm just going to sew this down. I'll attach this one and we'll be good to go. And there we have it. Now you think we're done, but we're not. We've got one more thing of, one more session of squaring up, because I want this to be 12.5 inches. But we can do that later. It actually looks pretty good to me. Yep. Just eyeballing it here, it looks pretty good to be 12.5. But there is the bright morning star. Don't forget about the upcoming book club. I am thinking we'll start with the cat, the quilt, and the corpse. And I'm thinking probably maybe on a Tuesday, maybe the 13th of September. What do y'all think? And should we read the whole book and discuss it, or should we just read half of it and then meet back up again? Give me your thoughts. Don't forget to find us on Facebook, Sewing and Crocheting for Beginners, and also Crazy Dave's Crew, and also the Crazy D Ranch and Rabbitry. Fun stuff. Fun stuff coming up. Well, I hope you've had an enjoyable day. I hope that this has inspired you. I will tell you right now, once again, I think I learn more than y'all do. And I will give my husband the measurements, and we'll try to include that in the description. Don't forget to check out our Amazon store for any of the supplies or little tools and gadgets that I've got. It is an affiliate link, so anytime you buy from our store, it does help the channel out, just, you know, a little bit. And we do appreciate, we really appreciate you watching and being with us on this journey. And we look forward to seeing you next time right here on Crazy Dave's Crew. Thanks for watching.